Welcome, bienvenidos a Newsroom por Canada Latin Channel, información en tu idioma. Welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today in this special program, special show we have today because we have an important topic to talk about it. And today this show will be in English because we are talking with the Consul of Philippines in Vancouver. So this program is called the Global Woman Empowerment, and we will talk about this topic regarding about what these cultural authorities are doing right now, the Mexican and the Philippine community as well. So please join us and share this content, share this video, because more people need to be know about what we're talking about right now. This is before we start. I'm gonna say thanks for everybody to follow us and share this content. Go to our social media. We are in Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, YouTube as well. So just go and just like us in every social media. Anyways, we can start with this special program because we have very good panel tonight for you guys. Empowering women to participate fully in economic, cultural, and social life across all sectors is essential to build stronger communities, economies, achieve internationally agreed goals for development and sustainability, and improve the equity of life for women, men, families, and communities. Canada is a world leader in the promotion and protection of women's rights and gender equity. These issues are central to Canada foreign and domestic policies. In an effort to build a strong women empowerment in Canada, the Mexican and the Philippine community are here together to show the power of women in an intercultural dialogue. So, right now, it's with us, all the panel. I can just bring it here with me. Let me put it here. And perfect. Thanks for being here, everybody. Thank you. I'm gonna introduce everybody. I'm gonna say thanks for being here. First of all, we have Berenice Diaz. She is the General Consul of Mexico in Vancouver. Consul, thanks for being here.
Opportunity to talk to Latin channel. And also, thank you very much to Maria Andrelita that she has been not just only a friend, but a very good colleague here in Vancouver.
Excellent. As well, we have, as you mentioned, Consul, we have the General Consul of Philippines in Vancouver as well, Maria Andrelita S, Austria, who is right here with us. Consul, thanks for being here as well.
Buenos tardes and gracias for having me. I'm very proud always to work alongside my good friend Berenice and Koyali. And these are all part of the advocacies that we share. So happy to be here.
Thanks, Consul. As well, we have a specialist in economic development strategist. She is Koyali Burman. Koyali, thanks for being here as well.
Thank you, Hector, and thank you, everyone, Bernice and Maria as well. It's always pleasure to be with you all and talk and be on the same panel and talk one of this very important issue. And thank you once again. Gracias.
Excellent. Well, this program is brought in effort with the Philippines Consulate in Vancouver and the Mexican Consulate in Vancouver as well. So thanks both of you consuls for this effort together to build a strong community in the Filipino community and the Mexican community as well. Thanks both of you. I'm gonna start with you, Consul of Mexico, Berenice. Mexico is a member state of the United Nations. As you know, one of the Sustainable Development Goals is to achieve gender equity and empower all women and girls. How has Mexico contributed to this?
Well, thank you for the question. Let me first start by remembering that the United Nations has been working on gender equality issues for more than 70 years. That's important to have in mind. We also need to remember that gender inequalities are still deep rooted in every society. Women suffer from the lack of access to decent work and face occupational segregation and gender wage gaps. In many situations, women are denied access to basic education and health care and are victims of violence and discrimination. They are underrepresented in political and economic decision making processes, and that's very important. If we have in mind that in the world there's much more women than men, and it has passed a lot of years, but we have not achieved the goals that we have established. So that is very important, the involvement of the United Nations, that they are looking that women become beneficiaries of development, human rights, humanitarian action, peace, and security. In this sense, let me share with you that, well, 2020 was supposed to be a very important year for women since it was going to be the 25th anniversary of the Beijing conference. And besides, there was going to be held the 64th session of the Commission of the Status of Women, that is a specific commission that deals with women issues in the UN at the ECOSOC level. There was going to be also the Generation Equality Forum that was going to be co-host or co-chair by Mexico and France. And I think this was important, that it was a developing country and a developed one, to have a balanced view about this evaluation. Also, there was going to be a high-level meeting. It was also the 20th anniversary of Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security, and also, as you mentioned, the Sustainable Development Goals, a 5-year milestone, and the 10th anniversary of UN Women. So this was very important. Obviously, COVID-19 didn't help in this sense. All these fora are going to take place in different formats, obviously, because of the COVID-19. But I can tell you that Mexico has for many, many years been very committed with the equality of women. And we have been participating not only at the UN level, but also in the OAS in different initiatives. Just to give you an example, in 1975, it was the Year of Women. It was the first time that a year was declared by the UN, and they asked to celebrate a conference on women. Mexico was the first country where an international conference of women celebrated. Beijing was the fourth one, and now we're talking about 25 years later after Beijing, that was in 1994, if I'm not mistaken, 1984, sorry, that this took place. So it's really, really important that Mexico has been there supporting, bringing ideas into the table, because it's not just that you decide what the human rights are for people. You have to take into consideration the background, the history, the needs of the countries, and also to incorporate all these, not only in the policies, but also in the budgets of the country to make them a reality. No, for us, the establishment of the International Criminal Court was a step forward, because, as you remember, many of the conflicts at that time were using as a way to hit people violating women, in order that they didn't reproduce to have people of the same ethnicity. So right now, Mexico is participating in the UN Security Council, and we are supporting that the different cases that have taken place, like places like Nigeria with Boko Haram, are dealt by the Security Council. We also want that all bodies, not only the Security Council, adopt a systematic gender approach in its activities and resolutions as a central element for international peace and security, and that should be incorporated in all decisions. And well, we know in Mexico, we also suffer violence against women, and we are also working in that sense. For many years, we have been working in a national program for equality between women and men. The latest one was issued last year. It's going to run from 2020 to 24, and we have also been presenting our periodic reports to the CIDAW. CIDAW is the Convention for the Elimination of Women, no, Convention for the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, and we periodically, as many other states, we present our reports. This is important because it's not the government that presents the reports. There are also NGOs that present the shadow reports, so you have a balance of what is really happening. You receive some recommendations and you have the commitment to incorporate them in your national program and policies. So to start, I will tell you that we have been participating. When I was working in the ministry, I used to participate directly on the Commission on Women, and I was lucky enough to be the negotiator for the mechanism for the Convention of the Belém do Pará, that is a regional mechanism to combat violence. And the idea of establishing this mechanism was to give teeth to this initiative in order to make specific recommendations and to sanction countries that were not complying with the content of the convention.
Very important contribution, Consul. Mexico is doing it in the past and even right now as well. And I gonna just ask to Mary Andrelita, the Consul of Philippines in Vancouver. Um, Consul, the Philippines is acknowledged as a leader in a woman empowerment. Considering that he has had two women presidents, has this trickled down to gender equity and empowerment for Filipino women in general?
Thank you, Hector. That's a very interesting question. I think we're one of very few countries who have had two women presidents. So it begs the question, is have we reached that level where women are empowered in the Philippines? We're very happy to say that the Philippines remains the top country in Asia in terms of closing the gender gap. The latest Global Gender Gap Report of the World Economic Forum shows that the Philippines has closed 78% of its overall gender gap. We rank 16th out of 153 countries with the narrowest gap between men and women. So to translate that into actual things that we see, we have closed 80% of the economic participation and opportunity gender gap, meaning women now outnumber men in senior and leadership roles, as well as in technical and professional professions. We have also closed the gender gap in educational attainment. Uh, because there is now 98% literacy rate for both males and females. A larger percentage of women and girls are enrolled in tertiary and secondary education. At the same time, in terms of health and survival, the female life expectancy is now almost at par with that of men. So clearly, there is progress, but much remains to be made.
Excellent. Thanks, Consul, for that. For that answer. It's very important the effort you guys, both communities, the Filipino community and even the Mexican as well community, doing about regarding about this topic. And now is the time with Koyali. Koyali, Um, I'm gonna ask you. Gender equity is an enabler and accelerator for all sustainable development goals. Since you are originally from India and now living in and working in Canada, in your opinion, how can financial inclusion advance women economic empowerment, drive progress on gender equity, and support the poverty eradication?
Thank you, Hector. And it was, first of all, greetings everyone again. And it's really inspiring to hear from fellow panelists, Consul General of Mexico and Philippines about some of the gender sensitive foreign policy and the work happening on women empowerment in Mexico and Philippines. And gender is one of the area of the work I have been doing for quite a while, also international development through. So, but today's topic of the discussion, I think I will be focusing on women and local economic development through entrepreneurship. So having the, the global lens, but also the Canadian context, within the Canadian context. So let me start by saying, as a citizen of the world, in order to make the change we need, it is of great significance that we discuss the empowerment of women in the economy and closing the gender gaps, which is one of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And today, when I think today more than ever with this whole pandemic situation, the global economy needs all the economic growth, dynamism, and innovation to move forward in the years ahead. And guess what? Thankfully, a key part of the solution is just staring right on our face, and that is to unleash the economic power of women. So with this call in mind, I would like to talk a little bit like, two things highlight, Hector, is one of the thing is I'll give you a bird's eye view of the gender-based barriers for financial inclusion globally, what's happening globally. But also second is the Canada's role and the local innovation, what's happening, and entrepreneurship. And my role as economic development strategist, the work I do, and also some of the innovative model that I have implemented. So I'll share with you one of them. And my closing remark will be what can be done to boost women's economic empowerment. So that's a couple of things I'll share through my experience. So going back to the first, the gender-based barriers of financial inclusion globally. So let me start by saying the women's economic empowerment and financial inclusion globally remained unfinished business. It's not yet done. So with no country having achieved the gender equality yet fully, and the women still being more likely than men to live in poverty. I believe in letting figures speak for themselves. So let me share with you some of the United Nations very, very recent facts and figures 2020 global. So the one of them is 55% of women globally are engaged in the labor market as opposed to only 78% of men. The other one, which I found it very, very interesting, was there are 72 countries in the world where women are barred from opening the bank accounts or obtaining credits. So that's really not a, economic inclusion. And then the third one is digital divide, which is just the gendered one. Most of the 3.9 billion people who are offline are in the rural areas, poorer, less educated, and tend to be working girls, right? So let me indicate some of the reason why these barriers are. Number one, and there are many reasons, but just I chose a couple of them, is the lack of bargaining power of the women within the household. I've done quite a lot of research work around gender internationally. So, and I think this is the one of the very big thing that came up, the lack of bargaining power of women within the household. So the voices of the women are not being heard. The other one is the legal barriers to owning an inherent property and other collateral. So owning property was one of the barrier. And the third one, which I personally came here across a lot, even in here in Canada, is the personal barriers. Being an economic development strategist and involved in various initiatives through my work, I have come across confidence level of women and entrepreneurs are very, very impacted. How women present themselves, set prices, negotiate behalf of their business, whether that be with the financial institution, maybe the supplier, the staff, customer, even within the peers, and even with the family member, shows a really lot of confidence with the women entrepreneurs here, even in Canada. Another thing was very important, which I came across to my work, is fear of failure is a top concern for most of the many entrepreneurs, but it plagues in women business owners more than the male counterparts. So these are a couple of things. But now I'll go back to the here, to Canadian context here. Supporting women entrepreneurs is a global priority. So a lot of countries are, most of the countries are really looking into that. Canada is considered a global leader in its women entrepreneurship strategy, aiming to help double the number of women entrepreneurs by 2025. So that's in British Columbia, the province where I live. It's very nice, very recent data. Is 38% of the small business owners in British Columbia are women, ranking fourth among the province in 2019. That's the data says. And this going back down here to the cities in BC, there are all the cities have economic development strategy. And Vancouver is often described as a city of neighborhoods that explore the innovative ways to build a more vibrant and inclusive local economy. And in this context, I will come and say that I think I have implemented a very groundbreaking work on a place-based entrepreneurship. It's created a business hub in southeast of Vancouver, and which is committed to encourage the business owners as a whole, but women in particular, to explore and invest in value-based and eco-conscious small businesses. So, just being an economic development strategist, again, I truly believe in order to nourish and flourish local economy, it is very important to establish a supportive environment locally and building structure of entrepreneurial innovation and creativity, just like the small businesses. Because entrepreneurship plays a major role in job creation and financial inclusion. So when people have job, society thrives both economically and socially. And I would really again stress on that the role of municipality, the local municipality has a really bigger role to play in Canadian context. Because that's what I really see that, and more the municipalities play a stronger role, the thriving, I think, thriving economy will be, and more so for the good. So that's my little bit take on for your question.
Thanks, Koyali. Very, very good expose as well. And every day, more women are being part of the economic strategy in Canada. And this is the goal, right? To involve more the women in the male industry or in the male jobs or works that can do it, right? Because as you said, Canada it's one of the first nations open with for a woman. Anyway, so I'm gonna back to you, Consul of the Mexico in Vancouver. I'm gonna ask you, in the last few years, there have been many changes in Mexico. In regard to gender equity, can you talk about the foreign equity policy adopted in 2020 and how your work encourage women empowerment?
Yes, Hector. Well, let me share with you that this initiative that was announced that last year made Mexico become the first country in Latin America to adopt a feminist foreign policy. Worldwide, there are few countries that have adopted these kind of policies, like France, Canada, Norway, and Sweden. And it's interesting because you have to cross all the information that we already have at the international, the regional, at the national level in order to have a complete overview. As my colleagues were saying, the obstacles and the things that we need to achieve are very diverse. No, Yakali was saying that, for example, in the case of Canada, we need to know that, for example, today we had a meeting with the Minister of Jobs, Economic Recovery and Innovation of BC, and he was receiving many comments that obviously the COVID-19 hit it harder to minorities like women, that indigenous people, First Nations, so that they needed to have an additional opportunity to have the same opportunities as the rest of the population. And I give you an example, the question of childcare. Obviously, a person that cannot leave their children with somebody to take care of them cannot have the same opportunities as the rest of the population. The thing here is that you need to level the playing field for everybody so everybody can really participate. And that's a challenge not only in Canada, in Mexico, in Philippines, and worldwide. In the case of Mexico, this feminist foreign policy was founded on a set of principles that seek to promote government actions and to reduce and eliminate structural differences, gender gaps, and inequalities in order to build a more just and prosperous society. Mexico, as other countries, we have much more women than men in the country, so we need to give them additional opportunities. As an addition to other international examples, the Mexican budget for this year will seek to mainstream the human rights approach, the gender perspective, and intersectionality in all areas of Mexican foreign policy It will also make the contribution of women to foreign policy and global actions more visible and maintain coherence and consistency by focusing both on the outside and the inside of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The national program obviously has 6 objectives. The first one is to strengthen the economic autonomy of women in order to close historical gaps and inequality. The second objective is to create the suitable conditions to recognize, reduce, and redistribute the housework and care of people between families, the state, the community, and the private sector. Another objective that we're looking with this national program is to improve the condition for girls, teenagers, and women so they can have access to wellness and health without being discriminated. The fourth objective is combating all types and forms of violence against women, girls, and adolescents, and help preserve their dignity and integrity. The fifth objective is having a position to equal participation of women in the decision-making of political, social, community, and private spheres. And the last one is to build a safe and peaceful environment for women, girls, and adolescents. This obviously it's a cross-cutting issue that has to go in the different areas of government. But now let me also share with you that this policy has also been adopted by the Foreign Ministry of Foreign Affairs, not only to promote our principles and views at the international level, but we have to recognize that inside of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Mexico, there is not a gender equally policy. Now, to give you an example, if you see the number of ambassadors in different representations, more than 67 are men and less than 34 are women. On the contrary sense, if you see the low level, there are much more women than men participating. So we have had several forums and seminars, and we adopted the following axes: making the foreign policy a gender perspective, a foreign feminist agenda. So everybody has to know what we're dealing with, and that has to be reflected in the embassies and in the consulates. Also have a ministry based on equality. Not the same posts and the same positions can be held either by women or men. That's why I go back to say that we need an equal level field. Also, we need to that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and embassies are free from violence and safe for all people. It's a pity to recognize, but we have had many cases of violence, and people do not want to present their case because they fear that they will lose their job. Also, we want equality to be visible in the ministry, and also to cross-cut this feminist intersectionality in all the areas of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This is under the lead of Vice Minister Marta Delgado. She knows very well this issue, this topic. She has been involved in previous international and regional conference of women, and her area will be the one that are going to be responsible for monitoring and evaluating this policy. Let me share with you, sometimes in my consulate, they complain a little bit because they said that there is a woman power in the consulate. It's maybe a coincidence, but at this point, we are 10 women working in the consulate, no, 13 women working in the consulate, and only 10 men. And obviously, because I'm a woman, that it says it's a little bit biased on the other sense, but well, that's only their opinion. And well, we have also been participating frequently at different levels in workshops and seminars regarding gender equality to understand what does this mean, how to incorporate it in the services that are given at the consulate. And we try to, we use a guide for the use of an inclusive and non-sexist language. No, because it's not a question of just, well, in the case of Spanish, you say consul or consulesa, no, for example, but it's not a matter of just
Male
changing,
and female, yeah.
no, female, male, no. It's a question that you incorporate that in your daily job. And well, it's not always easy. Remember, believe me, many times and in different ways, you sense that people are rejecting those kinds of language or proposals, or they feel that they are not important to incorporate in the daily job. But as I tell you, as I tell them, under my watch, things will be working differently. No, the other thing, well, last year with the pandemic, we had to make a lot of effort. And we managed, obviously, with the help of Alejandra Mendoza, that you know her. She helps me in all gender issues and cultural affairs and academic ones. We were able to host many events. Just to give you an idea, we had a Latin women dialogue. Also, we gave the Otley Award, that is one of the most important recognitions that the government of Mexico give to Mexicans working abroad, and we gave it to Karina Farias Torres. She is a strong-minded woman who constantly helps the community and agricultural workers. That, as you know, we have a large number, as well, Philippines has caregiver workers, but in the case of Mexico, we have temporary foreign workers. A lot of them are women, and we need to do much better to guarantee the rights and human rights of this population. We also supported female artists like Ari de la Mora, Daniel Ocaña, and female indigenous from Puebla that are artisans, and also from Chiapas. We also work with various female professionals who have greatly contributed in assisting the Hispanic communities of BC and the Yukon. As you remember, Hector, last year, the question of mental health was something very important for all of our communities.
Yeah.
So with the support of people like Jessica Wolf, Cecilia Aguayo, Lisette Escobedo from YMCA, we supported our communities in capsules, in giving them our assistance in Spanish, because many of them, they do not have a very fluent English. Also, we made 3 events on domestic violence. And I also gave a speech on the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women in 2020. So, on one side, we want to incorporate all this knowledge in our daily work, but we also want to share it with our community, and also share with them information about what Canada is doing in the issue of women human rights. Recently, I think it was like 2 months ago, I saw a review or a study with the results of the gap of women here in Canada, and that does apply to all women, independently of their origin, if they are Mexicans, Philippines, or even Canadian or minorities here in Canada. So there's a great challenge. We need to keep on sharing that information with our communities in order to attain the goals that we want. And we need to do that faster than before, because what we saw with the pandemic is that we lost the pace that we had before to attain the development goals of the UN. So now we have to invest double. We have to dedicate more resources, and all these resources and policies need to benefit women as equal as men.
Perfect. Consul, probably Canada is the best country to empower the women because, as I said before, Canada is very good doing these kind of things. Right now in the government, the premier, the first minister, I mean Justin Trudeau, they have equity on his government as well. Consul of Philippines in Vancouver, I'm gonna ask you to you. Many Filipino women live in work overseas. What is the Philippine government doing to ensure they are protected when they work overseas?
Thank you, Hector. That's a very important question, especially for me here in Vancouver, where there are over 800,000 Filipinos who live and work here. Uh, Actually, there's an estimated 10.4 million Filipino migrants who live
Wow.
and work in over in many, many countries across the globe. But in the past, I'd say 20 years, we have seen what we call the feminization of migration, with more and more women becoming migrants and breadwinners. Annually, an estimated 170,000 women are deployed from the Philippines, many of them working in the service and healthcare sectors. So they go as caregivers, they go as nurses, they go as service staff. So in many cases, Filipino women feel what is known as the care deficit. So I'd like to say that ours is the hand that rocks the cradle. But the Philippines, like Mexico, is widely considered as a model in migration management. We have a whole network of domestic laws and have fully utilized treaties and multilateral agreements to ensure that we are able to protect our migrant workers. Do you know that, like in countries in the Middle East, we have what we call a Filipino Workers Resource Center. In most countries where there are many Filipinos, these are homes where women who may be in vulnerable situations can come and they can get assistance, they can stay there until we are able to sort out their cases. Another example is we have in the Philippines what we call the Women in Development and Nation Building Act, which requires that each government agency allocate 5% of their total budget for projects and activities for women empowerment. So here, with 800,000 Filipinos, our primary task is to make sure that we're able to give them full protection and for their rights and welfare. So thank you.
That's very important, Consul, because some of the both cultures, the Filipino culture and the Mexican culture, they share some lot of things. And one example I can put on this is probably the family, right? We are so very strong doing that. I mean, the family is very important in the Filipino community and the Mexican as well. We fight all the time the for keep the family as close as I can and to build a strong people inside of the family. Thanks for that, Consul. So right now I'm gonna ask to Koyali, sorry for that. Please, please, Koyali, share some insights of the community based on economic innovation model that you have developed, and how can it help women empowerment?
Thank you, Hector. I think what I'll go is I'll share that innovation model, but I'll just maybe I missed that part before saying how to boost women's economic empowerment.
Yeah.
I'll just quickly go over a little bit around that as a closing remark and with tie in with the question that you have asked. So as I mentioned, like what can be done to boost women's economic empowerment? That's where my focus of my today's talk. Um, Again, I say I know that some efforts are underway here in Canada, but I believe there is a scope to go further. And I also mentioned before that every city has an economic development department. Municipalities have, and they have every economic development strategies in place. So Vancouver has already in place the economic development strategy. And one of the beautiful important thing of Vancouver is like they also look very globally. So the global economy ties with the local economy in Vancouver. So that's one. But as I say, entrepreneurship is one of the strategy to boost women's economic development and poverty reduction. So we sometimes think that in poverties are mostly in the developing countries, but when you see here as well in Canada, through my work also, I also see that there is a lot of poverty, and so there's a lot of poverty based on that. There's a homelessness, like various other issues are already there. So creation. So one, I my suggestions is creation of a more gender sensitive, inclusive policy and funding system. So the fundings sometimes are not gender sensitive. So if there is a more gender sensitive funding system in place locally and as well as provincially as well, so it's much more better. This can happen by having a regular interaction and consultation with women entrepreneurs And city planners play a huge role in every cities, and the policy officials, like it is essentials to, and that's where the economic empowerment can happen and things can shift. So more the discussions, more the dialogue, more the consultations with the city officials as well as other government policy makers, things will shift more. Expanding another big gap was expanding the pool of women investors, and that is BC. I'm talking with BC. Women are underrepresented as angel investors in BC, and so that is something a big gap. So more women is needed as an angel investors to help other women as well. Leadership training for women entrepreneurs is a big thing. So that is one of the skills that women really require to do good business. And as you know, and also work with the immigration area, settlement area. So Canada's social and economic fabric is changing with immigration policies, right? And we need more research and granular understanding of diverse women's issues in order to understand what works for them and in what context. As previously, Consul General Berenice has mentioned about, talking to the governments, they are mentioning the indigenous women, the childcare is needed, and different diverse women. So yes, absolutely, diverse women are coming in this country, um, and we really need to understand their issues and what the context looks like. So that is very important. And then I'll go back down here. Is yes, so the innovation model by how I build it is basically through the research, a lot of research and community research. And there is a very big gap in South Vancouver and Southeast Vancouver, where a huge number of multicultural communities live. But there is a high socioeconomic needs there. And financial security for the residents is one of the very, very biggest concern, because one third of their paycheck goes for housing and the rest is very little left, right? Because the capacity of the earned income affects all their other basic needs, especially housing and food, like medicine, education, etc. Some residents have barriers that it's very difficult to be employed in the mainstream workforce for various different reasons. Improved access to income through self-generated business is a fulfilling way for people to improve their personal economic situation. And these are all the first-hand knowledge which I did with a lot of researchers and came up with a gap. Therefore, this whole small business hub that I have created, this whole model, and the agencies are all applying, it's working very, very well, and more to see. So there are many success stories, but one of the outcomes was a convergence between the two sectors. So one of the big gap was the artists and the business sectors. So women in the arts and cultural industry who work as a freelance artist and creatives are often excluded from definition of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurships in Canada, actually. And yet a high proportion of artists and freelance are self-employed, and they dominate this sector. But as I mentioned before, the confidence level people like the women entrepreneurs is very, very low. So they do not ask the proper price of the work of their creativity. And so therefore this hub introduced a very special program to work with women artists and business. So having a big collaboration with the agencies, financial institutions, different sectors to help artists build some of the entrepreneurial skills, need to bridge the two sectors, the arts and the business, and create more mutual respect and understanding. I have really come across like the artists are not a very good in business. I have to be honestly saying that. So they love their art, they love their craft, and very sensitive to the art. But comes to the dollar value, they don't ask for that. So basically, it's not just the money, but the value of your work, the equity. It's not there. So they don't need to ask that questions to people and ask for. But this is something that was a very big gap, and this the hub actually tried to address it, and it's working very well. So, and again, I said, in order to nourish and flourish local economic development, it is very important to establish a supportive environment. One thing I also want to add here, I think before, Consul General of Mexico and Philippines mentioned about the migrant workers, like agricultural workers as well. So I saw there's a big gap of rural and farming women entrepreneurs. So I think there's a less investments from different sectors to focus on entrepreneurship and innovation. The government mostly be focused on more on urban centers, but often ignores the rural and semi-rural areas. Hasn't been much focus. So importance of understanding the smaller communities and the rural areas is a very important sites of entrepreneurship and innovation. And how can this happen? And more so now with the COVID is with the having a reliable technology, access to technology is a vital for virtual small business there. So those are some of the gaps that I found it. So maybe through big, probably, hopefully down the road through the small business hub, more places I can able to set up that might be helping. Another one other thing through the small business hub, probably we will be also setting up more formal saving accounts among women. Um, you know, like basically there's no cost free accounts, saving accounts opening to reduce the barriers of the entry and improve the account ownership among women. And also engage with the financial institutions with a fair and equal treatment for women credit applicants, and also providing grace periods for payoff loans for women entrepreneurs. So we will be addressing in future. These are some of the things from the hub. But the hub is a really, really good model and it's working very well. And I think this municipality is taking a lot of notice, Vancouver. So hopefully this will be probably implemented in other places as well. So that's something that it's a very first-hand knowledge and I'm able to share with you all. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Koyali. Very good talking about the opportunity of all the females, all the women need to have here in Canada, but not only in Canada. As I mentioned before, we have a lot of work to do in our countries, in Mexico and Philippines as well, because still that the things the men need to have those hard works, right? Hard jobs. I mean, but it's not the truth. We have uh, we grow up with this kind of thoughts, and we need to change the ship about that. Well, guys, I have here a person who is participating, so I'm gonna put in the screen, and I will read it. He says. Danitza Ponce, he says, Mexico is going to the way to introduce more women in more positions, but also need to work more than that. But Canada, I think, is more open mind to that. This country have more opportunities for women. Anybody want to mention say something? Go ahead, Council.
Yes, thank you very much, Hector. Just before answering your question and going back a little bit of what Koyali was mentioning, today that we had this talk with Minister Rabi, that right now he's the Minister of Jobs, Economic Recovery and Innovation of BC. It is important that not only for being a woman, but for small enterprises, the government of Canada is giving a lot of grants and is also giving money that is not a loan, that they don't have to pay back, and that will help their businesses. Obviously, this is difficult because if you run a small business, you don't have enough time to fill in documents, you pay your taxes. But that information is very useful that you already have it to apply to these programs. That obviously one of the main ideas is that that will boost the equality for men and women here in Canada. And well, I want to point out that for what we have been discussing with different ministers lately, women here in Canada should also look to have a better place in the digital superclusters. I don't know if you know, but Canada has 5 different superclusters. One that is digital, the other one that are proteins, the oceans, another 2 that are very important, but those ones are in other provinces. So the digital superclusters are here in BC, and it would be great that women participate much more because as you were saying, we need to shift our mentality that there are some specific jobs that can only be performed by men. No, the digital is one example, science is another one. I know a lot of great women. There was a very interesting movie. I don't remember now the name, but it was at the NASA that were black women that were the ones that created the program for the space. So there is not a crystal roof for anybody, not here not in Canada, not in Mexico, and not in the Philippines. And we need to shift that mentality. Regarding the question that was asked by one of your participants, what I tell you is that there's not like a grade by country. It depends on which sector you're talking about. Let me share with you, for example, and this applies for developing and non-developed countries. For example, gender data gap. There are only 13% of countries that dedicate a budget to gender statistics. No? So, and only 50% of countries have legislation that mandates specialized gender-based surveys. And only 41% of countries regularly produce violence against women data. So we cannot say one country does very well. There are some areas that they could be performing quite well. There are other ones that they need to do much better. And I tell you this because at some point in, as I call my previous life, that I participated at the UN, if you see the reports of countries in the CEDAW, you can look to the reports of Canada. Canada has still a lot to improve. Obviously, maybe developing countries were way behind Canada, but all of the countries which we have the same challenges. And another thing that is very important is to recognize that nowadays all countries, including Canada, they are made by migration. If Canada wants to keep up and have their same level of economy, they will need to bring people from abroad. No, in the case of British Columbia, for I think it's 2025, if I'm not mistaken, they will need to bring 1 million people if they want to keep up with their economy. With their system, we know that there are no new children born here in British Columbia, and that makes an additional challenge because people coming from different backgrounds need to incorporate much better in order to accept the values and principles and rights that are recognized for all the population. So it's a challenge. We need to work much more. In some cases, women have more opportunities than in another ones. You also have this question of the representativity of women at in politics. Just to give you a data, in 20,000, the participation of women in national parliaments was 13.2. In 2017, 23.4. That's still very low. If we want really to influence the politics and the legislation that has to be passed and the budgets in order to put women in a different situation in few years. So challenges are there all around. We can learn a lot from Canada, but I think Canada can also learn a lot from our countries and our experiences, as you mentioned, with migration or in specific situations.
Perfect. Yeah, it's a lot of work to do even in this sector. Consul Andrelita, based on what the our participate put on the screen, how challenge is for Filipino community to involve on the males. I'm talking about the males involved in this kind of empowerment woman. How challenging it's for you as a female consul here in Canada? Your microphone is muted. Can you unmute it, please?
Sorry. Thank you,
Perfect.
Hector. I'm really very proud of how our community has been responding to the challenges of global empowerment. Uh, as I've mentioned earlier, many of the principal migrants who come to Canada are female. So
Yeah.
thus, the husbands are left in the Philippines and they are the ones who are taking care of the family until such time when they're able to join the caregiver here in Canada. But we have seen so many success stories of the husbands allowing the women to shine. In fact, here in Canada, many of our more politically engaged people are women. We only have one member of the Legislative Assembly who's Filipino Canadian, and she's a woman, Mabel Elmore, and we're very proud of her. So, similar to Mexico, as you mentioned earlier, our societies put a very we are both matriarchal societies. We
Yes.
recognize the importance of women. But sadly, it's often that the importance of women are kept to the home. There are so many past barriers to break. I believe that we cannot say women are empowered when there are still places when women are forced to have abortions rather than have baby girls. When there are still places that we need to, women are seen as property. But at the end of the day, as long as we have conversations like this, uh, there is awareness and there is an effort to work together to build on all the gains that we've had and make sure women have the same opportunities as men. And we're very proud to be part of that effort. Thank you.
Perfect. And
Hector, let me
yes.
tell you that I think that Andrelita has touched the fundamental point. If our communities, we now recognize that Filipinas has a lot of people living here in Vancouver, in the case of Mexico also, but if they really want to participate and change not only their family and their surroundings, they have to participate in politics. No? So
Yes.
that is a call and an open invitation to our communities to get much more involved in what is happening, to get prepared and to participate in the internal politics of Canada. If not, I can tell you, you can see there's a lot of participation from people of Chinese origin here in Canada and in other parts of the country. But I hope that in the near future we can see people with Filipino origin, or in my case, Mexican origin, because that would really make a difference for our communities here. But that's the main point. I think that would be the bottom line of this conversation.
Excellent. And you're right, Consul. As well, I feel wholly between females. So that's why things.
You cannot say that there's an imbalance of gender here.
No, 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 no. I won't say anything at this time because probably you guys gonna be bullying me. But that's okay. Don't worry about it. No, I'm just
Can I,
kidding.
can I add something that
Go ahead, please.
regarding the gender? I think it's Consul General Andrelita. She brought really a good point forward, and Consul General Bernice as well. So there is a two terms. One called Women in Development, Women ID WID, and Gender and Development GAD. So Women in Development was an older concept, but now later on is now Gender and Development. When you use the word gender, so it's two, male, female, and other genders as well, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things was very, very important. A woman being empowered, stronger. That's a highly important. Bringing women into the center than leaving them in the periphery. But it's also very important to enlighten men, understand the issues of men, and also having men as an ally, advocate for women as well. So this really helps, and especially I'm going back where I come from, India. I think I've seen many men actually who helped women to move forward. So as just Consul General Andrelita said that many men actually encouraged women to work, like Philippine from the Philippine community, and it's true. I think it's very important man's role in the household, and outside as well, mentors even. So it plays a big role. So having men as an ally who are also enlightened and who also helps women to move forward. And so that's called gender and development. So bringing men also in the middle and women in the middle and having together move forward with that. So that's yeah. So women in development and gender in development is two different concepts now. So now currently a lot of developing countries, many countries follow the gender and development area. But I
Perfect.
also agree on Consul General Bernice, like more women needs to be in the advocacy role, more in the politics, and then more we speak, just like the platform like today we had, more women will be enlightened and encouraged. And I always speak that like something that I say, I wrote it here, and I thought like this is my one of my favorite quote is to everyone all, but more so for women is confidence is the best accessory but wear it well. So we women, we wear different accessories, but I personally feel confidence is the best accessory, but you have to wear it really well. That's my thing.
Excellent. Well, I want to say thanks everybody to be here with this program, special program, Consul of Philippines in Vancouver. Thanks, Andrelita. Thanks for being here, and Consul of Mexico in Vancouver as well. Berenice, thanks for being here, and Koyali, thanks as well for showing us all your thoughts and all your experience talking about this excellent topic. I just want to say thanks for this, and hopefully this now will be just the only program, the only show we have, because we need to work a lot. Even me as a male, we need to work a lot to empower the females, the women, to get involved in more activities of the supposed men's only can do it. So something else you can add before we leave?
No, just to
You-
thank you, Hector, and also Koyali and Maria Andrelita. I have found that both of them are great colleagues here in Vancouver, that we can make, we have common initiatives, no, and I think that's very, very important, and that we can work on those initiatives and move them forward, and that's what we are here for, no, to help our communities to get empowered and to benefit from all the human rights recognized by the UN Declaration of Human Rights, that Canada is one of the signatories, well, not of the declaration, but of the conventions, the political, the civil, the political, economic, social, and cultural rights. And let's do that a reality for everybody.
Perfect. Consul Angelita, thanks for being here. Something else you need to add before we leave? No? Okay, perfect. Koyali, thanks a lot, and thanks for being here, and thanks for everybody to watch this show. Thanks. Thank you. Abrazos
Thank you.
and hugs for
Abrazos and
everybody.
take care.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Well, thanks for everybody to being here and to follow our show. And this is a good and important topic to us, because we need to empower more the female. And as well, we want to apologize, because I know our show all the time is in Spanish, but because we have a special guest, like the consul of Philippines in Vancouver, and Koyali as well. She's from India. Just we need to do this in English. My apologies for that. But our programs will be on Spanish as well. But anyways, I need to say thanks for everybody to being here, and please keep in touch and follow us and any social media we have: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and our website as well, www.canadalatinchannel.com. My name is Hector Shapiro, and this was Newsroom for Canada Latin Channel. Obviously, Canada Latin Channel. No. Sé que Canada Latin Channel es información en tu idioma. Have a good night. Muy bonita noche a todos ustedes. Hasta luego.